Hello friends, and welcome back to Picture Astrology. In today's video, we will look for the effects of Sun when it is posited in the first house of an Aries Ascendant horoscope. So when you have a horoscope with Aries Ascendant, that means the very first house in your horoscope, which is this block, which is the first 30 degrees, is, if you're looking at a North Indian kind of chart, will have this number 1, which means it is the sign of Aries, and you have Sun posited in this house. So we know that Sun is actually Lord of sign number 5, which is this sign Leo. So in other words, the Lord of 5th house Sun is posited in your first house. So when this kind of combination happen, it can actually impact various aspects of your life. So before we analyze the effects, let's just see what all areas of life it can impact. So to begin, so we have Sun here. First of all, it can affect your related areas. So first house, that means it will affect your self, your personality. First house also represents your mental makeup. It also shows, your physique, how your body looks like, and your overall life, life in general. So that's these are the areas of life it will affect by virtue of being in the very first house of your horoscope. Secondly, Sun is the Lord of 5th house. So the 5th house significance will also be impacted. So by virtue of being the Lord of 5th house, Sun can affect your love life, the kind of people you attract in your love life. It will affect your children, the kind of children you have, and what kind of relationship you share with your children in your life as such. It will also show your creativity. It will also show your Purva Punya. Purva Punya, vaguely put, would be, things which kind of comes naturally to you in this life, because you have actually done well in your past life to acquire all those skills. So because of being Lord of 5th house, it will affect these areas of your life. Now we are talking about Sun, so the signification of the Sun will also be impacted. So father, your high position, what kind of authority or high position you can acquire in life, your relationship with government and similar organizations. Also, when Sun sets in the first house, it actually directly aspects the house opposite to it, which is the house number 7, and 7th house represents your spouse. So by virtue of being by virtue of aspecting the 7th house, this position will also impact your marriage life. It will also greatly impact your partnership, the business partnerships, I mean. So let's say business partnership. And also 7th house denotes the high position in life, which is similar to the signification of Sun as such, but this is another area which this position will impact. So you see, even before we go into analysis of the effects of this house, we see that this just one position can affect a lot of different areas of your life, and we will look at each of these one by one. So let's begin with the first house significance for this placement. So I will move all of these little down. So to begin with, let's start with physique. So physique basically means how your body and built is. So when Sun is exalted in the first house, and we know that Sun is the lord of fifth house, which is the Leo sign. And being the lord of fifth house, Sun becomes a very auspicious planet. So the Sun is actually very beneficial planet for Aries Ascendant, and it is exalted, which means it is very powerful also. So with those significance, the physique is usually very strong. Sun also represents the immunity or ability to fight diseases of the body, and because of that, the immunity of the body is also very good. You don't fall sick very easily, or at least this is a position which kind of saves you from the disease causing bacteria and other environmental factors. So usually the physique is pretty strong. Also, Sun is known to give a squarish physique, meaning the body would be broad, the rib cage, the entire body structure would be pretty broad. The face also would be broad, with jaw lines proper, not round or oval shape, but you can clearly see a square shaped structure of the body. So apart from being strong physique, there are some areas which must be noted. So first of all, because Sun is a fiery planet and it is very strongly placed in the first house, and also the natural tendency of Sun is a malefic planet. So because of this high degree of fire, there is a tendency of highly acidic nature in the body. So because of this, there are some things which can easily happen. First of all, being prone to fever. That is one very common thing with this kind of Sun posited in the first house of body, that the body becomes kind of susceptible to getting fever easily. Also, Sun represents your eye. So though the dignity of Sun is very good, but because it's malefic and it is in the first house, any affliction to the Sun, mind it, an affliction is necessary. If there is any affliction in the Sun, eye trouble are very likely. Especially many folks who have trouble with the night vision, or those night blindedness in some severe cases. For those cases, we have many times found that Sun in the first house with high affliction has always been responsible. Also, Sun is an enemy of Saturn. So Saturn and Sun, they don't go along well. And Saturn represents hair. First house is your head and your hair. So with this strong position of Sun in the first house, and because of its enmity towards Saturn, the density of hair for these kind of folks is a little bit less. And because it's a Sun, the density is uniformly less. When Mars is in the first house, people tend to lose hair from the sides, from the temple areas. But when the Sun is in such a position, the hair loss kind of happens all across the hair, or all across the head. So that's a common thing to look for. But apart from these things, overall the physique and the body is pretty good because of this Sun exalted. So now I will remove all of these and let's move on to the next area. Let's talk about our self, personality and mental makeup altogether. So we know that Sun is actually the center of our solar system. All other planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth and so on, they all revolve around Sun. So sun is the central puller, it is the one which holds everything together. It is the pivot of our entire solar system, which is basically the source of our life. So naturally, people with sun in exalted position in the first house, they love to be center of attraction wherever they go. Be it in party, be it in office space, be it in work area, be it in social circle, everywhere they would want to be the center of attraction. And they also have a great magnetic pull. People do get attracted towards them easily. After all, sun has the largest magnetic pull in our zodiac system. So, because it being sun, which represents king, these folks are highly ambitious. They want to achieve great things in life. They never want to be second to anybody in life. And they have all those qualities also, because of this wonderful placement of sun. But on the flip side, this many times for the people from outside, they feel that they have a lot of pride. Being too proud on themselves could be one of the negative qualities of this placement. Now, consider a case, especially with sun exalted, in moon and Venus weak in the chart. Now, moon and Venus are generally called as soft planets. They are the planets which provide softer qualities in the personality, the humility, generousness, and all those nice things. If with sun exalted, moon and Venus are weak, then the person could, come across like a dictator, because then sun will overly dominate the personality. So when such condition happens, the person could come across like a almost very overpowering dictator kind of personality. Even, the family members, they fear such people because, this sun would want to dominate everybody. So that could be a problematic thing in terms of maintaining relationship with family and also with outside folks. But remember, this position has to happen. Moon, Venus have to be weak for that to happen. So that's pretty much about, the mental makeup and personality of the person. We will talk about overall life in conjunction with fifth house when we will talk about, the Purva Punya. So I think we are good with the first house. Let's move on to the next topic, which is the fifth house significance and how that is impacted because of this position. So let me remove all of these for now before we begin with the fifth house significance. All right, so let me bring this part up right at the center. And let's say in the fifth house, let's begin with love life. I guess everybody would be interested in that. So fifth house, as we know, represents your, apart from many things, how your love life would be, which kind of people you're going to be attracted to or will attract in your life. So the position of fifth house sun exalted in the first house is actually a good one for any love affair, and generally these folks are attracted towards powerful and accomplished women. They want someone who is ambitious. Simple Janes are not for these guys. They respect and love power and authority. So any woman who exudes confidence and ambition and is somewhat accomplished in life is their natural choice. And also they easily find such people, because the fifth house lord in the first house is very well placed. Also, sun is a very formal planet. This position doesn't support a lot of flings or short affairs as such. generally speaking. Obviously, other influences on the 5th house have to be looked at for a complete analysis, but just going by this position, Sun exalted in the 1st house, the love affair generally is long and pretty formal, not the flings kind of. They also meet their loved ones generally in a formal party. Especially, I've seen many horoscopes where people met their to-be wife or to-be lover for some time in a party thrown by their father, because Sun is in the 1st house exalted and Sun is your father. So typically fathers throwing a big formal party, and father's friends, their daughters and sons, they all join in, who are also well accomplished in life, and they kind of get in touch with someone from the similar society and fall in love with, and also easily convert those into marriage, because the Sun has direct aspect on the 7th. 7th is the house of marriage. So it's easy, for them to get into a formal love affair, and then with the consent of parents, culminating that love into a marriage. But remember, no flings. This doesn't really support flings. So that's pretty good position. Let's just talk about marriage also in the same vein, right? Because we are talking about a similar item. So for marriage, this position is actually very good. The aspect of Sun, which is a very auspicious planet here on the 7th, kind of gives a visibly successful marriage. At least from the outside world, the marriage looks very successful. They together as a couple, as a pair, they do indulge in a lot of social activity or religious activities. Sun represents society, very exalted, aspecting 7th. And generally, from the family point of view and from the social point of view, the marriage is pretty good. So this is actually a very auspicious position for that. The only flip side is the Sun aspect. Sun is exalted. Remember, we talked about this Sun could give dictatorial and very overpowering kind of nature. And people who have this, though they get a good spouse, a spouse who is also very accomplished and well-read and well-educated, but still they like to dominate them in the marriage. And this is one tendency which needs to be avoided, with this kind of horoscope. And remember, obviously, this will happen more if Moon and Venus and those softer planets are weak in the horoscope. So that's about love as well as marriage. So let me remove this, and we can move on to maybe the next item. Let's say the creativity. Or many people consider 5th house as a house of education also. There is a big debate between the 4th house is house of education or the 5th house is. But what my teachers have taught me and what we have observed over a period of time is that generally 4th is the house of formal education. Really formal education, meaning degree, university degree, bachelor's degree kind of. And 5th is generally the skills acquired by applying that formal knowledge. So they both in some ways do represent education and creativity, or especially how skillful you are in applying the knowledge you have gained in your day-to-day life. So this exalted Sun, 5th Lord exalted, and that to Sun, actually give them a tendency to respect education very highly. They both formal education as well as skills, knowledge, these are the people who would really respect that. They themselves would be very well read, very well learned, depending upon which part of the world these guys come from. Many folks from India, whose horoscope I have seen, they have who have this position, they know ancient text very well. They even have by heart some of the very old ancient text or hymns, or they are very good in doing havan, or they have mastery over some mantras or some kind of spiritual practice, because fifth house represents all of these. So these guys are really creative. When it comes to even say music or literature, their taste is like sun, old classic text, old classic music, old classic architecture. They love all of those things. They love to go to mountains. It's royal thing. Anything royal, they would love to go to palaces and visit them, all because of this fifth house lord being in the first house, which dominates their entire life, and sun has all these qualities. So they are they are lover of education. It's a pretty good position for learning, for education. Not they won't be creative and become like a dancer, okay? Even if they become dancer, they would become a classical dancer kind of. So I think you got an idea about what kind of areas they would be naturally interested in and be really successful. So that's about the creativity aspect. Let's just talk about Purva Punya a little bit. Now, Purva Punya is, as a term, is not very well understood generally. Maybe I'll create a separate video for this, but for now, let's just say, these are things which the person has accomplished in past lives, and therefore it seems like those things are coming very naturally to them, even without any effort. They have no effort, they put no effort, and things get done for them. So, for example, this position would make them take birth in a very good family, in a very well-known family. Generally, they will be born, in a highly successful, socially acknowledged family. So that is also kind of a Purva Punya. They have done something in past which has caused them to take a birth like this. So because this sun is in the first house, this Purva Punya or this help or this luck or whatever you want to call it kind of helps them throughout the life. First house is the house of their overall life. So throughout their life, they get easily benefited from their family, from their father, from the connection of their father. Sun represents government, or it also represents, people in power. So they somehow always remain on the right side of the people who matters. They easily become acquainted with them, and for people who are watching it from outside, they would feel as if they are making no effort and they are getting things done. But the reality is, because their Purva Punya is very strong, they tend to get all those things easily in life. Now, sun also represents father, which we have also noted down here. So in general, and we have briefly talked about it already, but their father usually is in a very high position, be it in the government, be it in politics, be it in business area. They usually rise very high, and by the time the person takes birth, they have attained high success. This is a general thing which we have observed in such horoscope. The only issue could be, in which again we have observed, that the house of father is 10th house, and 10th house here is Capricorn sign, and Capricorn's lord is Saturn, and we know that Saturn and sun, they don't go along well. And Sun exalted is going to give success to both yourself and also your father, but you both will have high ego, and there is a great possibility of your thoughts, your thinking process not matching properly, and that could lead into some friction between father and son. And this is very commonly observed phenomena. Generally it can happen with any horoscope where sun is exalted. This is a general thing, but for Aries horoscope it is more so, because the lord of 10th, which is the house of father, that also has natural enmity with sun. So apart from these ego clashes between the father and the sun duo, everything else generally happens well. Now let's look at children. Sun is the lord of 5th house, exalted, and sun is known to give less number of child. These folks don't have, many times I've seen only one child, basically not even 2-3, but though they have less number of child, their kids do very well. Sun is exalted, they are also replica of their father, they also have all those great qualities and also the pitfalls of the sun exaltation. And naturally you would probably have now understood that the only problem between the father and son duo would be ego. So not just the person with his own father, but also with his own kids, they tend to repeat the same mistake. So if they can put aside their ego, if they can just put it aside, the relationship with the kids generally remains very cordial, and their kids also do wonderfully well in life. So this, my dear friend, was just a quick analysis, I guess, of the sun in the 1st house in Aries sign for Aries Ascendant. Obviously, all these placements, they are the building blocks. You cannot say with guarantee or conclude with 100% assurance about a horoscope with just one placement, but you must understand what this one placement can affect and how it can affect. And when you understand all these placements, it's the astrologer's job to kind of mix and match and see what comes out. So with that, I'll stop. I hope you like it. Please put in your comments and share the video if you like it. And until the next video I make, have a very safe and happy life. See you later. Bye bye.